Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something right now. The difference between rich and poor, it ain't money. The truth is, the real gap between the rich and the poor isn't money, it's mindset. Money is a byproduct. It's the result of how someone thinks, what they believe is possible, and the decisions they make based on those beliefs. You can give $1 million to someone with a poor mindset, and in a year, they'll likely be back where they started, or worse. On the other hand, take everything away from someone with a rich mindset, and they'll find a way to build it all back up again. That's because their wealth isn't in their bank account, it's in their thinking. People with a rich mindset understand that their most valuable asset isn't a job, a car, or a degree. It's their ability to think, adapt, and grow. They look at problems as puzzles to solve. They believe that every setback has a lesson, every delay has a reason, and every challenge carries within it the seed of a new opportunity. It's not about having everything figured out. It's about trusting that they can figure it out no matter what. Meanwhile, a poor mindset is constantly focused on limitations. It clings to comfort zones. It says things like, people like me don't make it, or I've never been good at that. It sees risk as something to fear instead of a chance to grow. And instead of learning new skills or investing in their personal development, people with a poor mindset often stay in the same cycles, expecting different results from the same choices. They see successful people and think they got lucky instead of asking, what can I learn from them? Now, having a rich mindset doesn't mean you ignore struggle. It means you refuse to let struggle define you. You recognize that effort compounds. Every book you read, every mistake you learn from, every uncomfortable conversation you have, it all adds up. And over time, the way you think begins to shift. You go from saying, I can't afford that, to asking, how can I afford it? You stop asking for permission and start creating opportunities. Rich-minded people believe in possibilities. They're willing to bet on themselves. They don't waste time blaming their circumstances. They use their circumstances as fuel. They understand that growth happens in tension, not comfort. So they stay hungry. They stay learning. They stay moving forward, even when nobody's clapping for them. Mindset is the root. Change the root, and the fruit changes. What you believe shapes what you do. What you do shapes what you get. And what you get starts to look a whole lot different when you think from a place of strength instead of fear. A rich mindset sees opportunity, while a poor mindset sees obstacles. That one difference shapes two completely different lives. When faced with the same challenge, two people can react in totally opposite ways, not because of the situation, but because of how they choose to view it. A person with a rich mindset looks at a problem and says, what's the lesson here? What can I build from this? Meanwhile, someone with a poor mindset looks at that same problem and says, this always happens to me. I can't catch a break. It's not the challenge that defines them, it's their perspective. People with a rich mindset have trained themselves to look beyond what's in front of them. They don't just see what is, they see what could be. Where others see failure, they see feedback. When something doesn't go their way, they don't retreat, they rework it, adjust, and try again. They don't take no as the end of the road, they take it as a detour. Every setback becomes a setup. Their thinking is rooted in growth, in possibility, in solution. On the other hand, a poor mindset tends to magnify problems. It focuses on what's wrong instead of what's possible. It asks, why me, instead of what now? People trapped in this mindset often see every barrier as a stop sign rather than a speed bump. They'll talk themselves out of opportunities before they even try. They'll say things like, That's too hard. I don't have what it takes, or I knew this wouldn't work. And when you believe obstacles define your path, you stop moving altogether. This mindset difference is especially visible in how people approach risk. A rich mindset understands that risk is part of growth. They know there's no reward without a little discomfort, so they lean into it. They take calculated risks, not reckless ones, but they're not paralyzed by fear. A poor mindset, however, sees risk as danger. It would rather stay stuck in something familiar than step into something better but uncertain. It values safety over progress, even if that safety comes with dissatisfaction. Another key difference is in how they view other people's success. Rich-minded people celebrate it. They study it. They get inspired by it. They say, if they did it, I can too. Poor-minded people get bitter. They feel threatened. They say things like, must be nice, or they probably had connections. One mindset seeks to learn and rise. The other seeks to judge and retreat. The truth is, opportunity is everywhere, but you only see it when you're looking for it. If you believe there's always a way forward, you'll start to find one. But if all you see are obstacles, you'll never move beyond them. Your eyes will only focus on limits, and your actions will reflect that. This is why two people can grow up in the same house, face the same struggles, and end up living completely different lives. It's not the environment, it's the mindset they chose to adopt. There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop saying, I can't afford it, and start asking, how can I afford it? That small change in language opens up your creativity, your problem solving, and your belief in what's possible. Saying I can't shuts the door. It ends the conversation before it even begins. It reinforces limitation. But asking how can I forces your brain to go to work. It invites solutions. It turns your focus toward action instead of defeat. When you say, I can't afford it, you're not just talking about money. You're making a statement about what you think is within your reach. You're putting a ceiling on your own potential. That kind of thinking doesn't just limit your wallet, it limits your future. It trains your mind to settle, to shrink, to believe that certain things just aren't for people like you. And once you accept that, you stop trying. You stop reaching. You settle into survival mode instead of growth mode. But when you ask, how can I afford it? You flip the script. You move from scarcity to strategy. You start looking for ways to make things happen instead of reasons they can't. It might mean learning a new skill, picking up a side hustle, changing spending habits, or making sacrifices. But most importantly, it means you've accepted the idea that the life you want is possible, and that's the foundation of every success story. People with a rich mindset don't avoid big goals because they seem expensive or out of reach. They break them down, they plan, and they stay flexible. They don't let the price of something determine their worthiness of it. They know that growth requires investment, and investment requires intention. Even if they don't have the means right now, they keep their minds open to new income, new connections, and new ways of doing things. Asking, how can I afford it, turns obstacles into puzzles. It teaches resourcefulness. It builds confidence because every time you solve one problem, you prove to yourself that you're capable of more. You begin to see money not as something that controls you, but as something you can learn to master. The focus becomes less about what you lack and more about what you can create with what you have. A rich mindset is built on investment. Investment in growth, in time, in learning, in discipline. It doesn't just mean putting money into stocks or businesses. It means putting energy into things that multiply your value. People with a rich mindset understand that growth doesn't happen by accident. It takes intention. It takes work. They choose to spend their time and effort on habits, skills, and relationships that will make them better tomorrow than they were today. Every book they read, every skill they sharpen, every connection they build is an investment that pays dividends down the line. On the other hand, a poor mindset invests in excuses. It finds reasons to stay the same. It spends energy justifying failure instead of learning from it. It says, I'm too tired, I'm too old, I'm not good at that, or this is just how I am. Those are investments too, but they pay in regret. Excuses are easy. They feel comfortable in the moment. But over time, they cost more than most people realize. They cost progress, they cost confidence, they cost opportunity. A rich mindset treats time like currency. It understands that how you spend your hours is how you build your future. Watching hours of mindless content, gossiping, procrastinating, those are expenses. Reading, working on your goals, seeking feedback, those are deposits. One mindset asks, what's the easiest way to get through the day? The other asks, what can I do today that gets me closer to where I want to be? People with a rich mindset aren't perfect. They make mistakes. They fall off track, but they get back up because they've built their identity around growth, not comfort. They don't need to look successful on the outside if they're building something real on the inside. They delay gratification. They know that the payoff for hard work doesn't always come right away, but they trust that it's coming if they stay consistent. A poor mindset avoids challenge. It doesn't want to stretch because stretching is uncomfortable. But that's the problem. Growth lives on the other side of discomfort. If you only do what's easy, you'll stay stuck. A rich mindset pushes past that resistance. It invests in discomfort, knowing that's the price of transformation. It doesn't focus on the cost, it focuses on the return. The difference is clear. One mindset looks for reasons to grow. The other looks for ways to stay the same. And the results always show, because in the end, what you invest in becomes your reality. The people you surround yourself with shape the way you think, the goals you set, and the standards you hold yourself to. A rich mindset is intentional about relationships. It seeks out people who challenge, inspire, and stretch them. These are people who talk about ideas, not gossip. People who celebrate progress, not criticize ambition. When you're around forward thinkers, your vision expands. You begin to realize that success isn't rare. It's a pattern. And if you stay close enough, you start to pick it up. Energy is contagious. If you spend your time with people who constantly complain, blame, and make excuses, it starts to rub off. That becomes your normal. Your standards shrink to match the room you're in. But when you're surrounded by people who are building, who are pushing, who are making things happen, that becomes your new normal too. Suddenly, playing small feels uncomfortable. You don't want to be the only one in the room, not growing, not moving, not reaching, but you step up. A poor mindset holds on to relationships out of comfort and history, not alignment. It says things like, we've known each other forever, or that's just how they are. But just because someone's been in your life a long time doesn't mean they belong in your future. Loyalty is important, but not at the cost of your purpose. Growth requires pruning. Sometimes you have to love people from a distance to protect your mindset. Or thinkers encourage your ideas instead of shutting them down. They ask, how can we make this happen? Instead of listing all the reasons it won't work. They talk about vision boards, not just vacation plans. They read, they learn, they fail forward. They don't laugh at your goals. They push you to aim higher. And the more time you spend around people like that, the more you begin to believe that your goals are valid, that your future is worth working for, and that anything you want is possible with focus and faith. Your circle is either pulling you forward or holding you back. Every conversation you have either fuels your purpose or drains it. When you realize the impact of your environment, you stop entertaining relationships that don't feed your growth. You start protecting your your peace, your energy, your time, and your vision. Because when you're serious about changing your life, you get serious about changing your circle. Everything in your life starts with a thought. The way you think sets the tone for how you act, how you react, and what you believe is possible. If your thoughts are full of doubt, fear, and limitation, your actions will reflect that. You'll hesitate, you'll shrink, and you'll settle. But if your thoughts are grounded in belief, possibility, and confidence, you'll move differently. You'll take chances, speak boldly, and chase goals with intention. That's why changing your thoughts is the first step to changing your life. A rich mindset doesn't wait for perfect conditions. It decides what it wants, and it begins. It feeds itself with affirmations, with vision, with learning. It doesn't entertain thoughts like, I'm not good enough, or I'll never make it. Instead, it says, I may not be there yet, but I'm on my way. That shift in thinking creates momentum. It creates power, because the way you think becomes the way you move. A poor mindset often lives in the past. It focuses on what went wrong, who did what, and why things haven't worked out. It plays old stories on repeat. Stories of failure, of rejection, of missed chances. And as long as you keep thinking in the past, you keep living in it. You carry old limitations into new seasons and wonder why nothing changes. Your life can't evolve if your thinking stays the same. Thoughts create patterns. Those patterns become habits. And those habits shape your reality. When you think like a winner, you start acting like one. You become more disciplined, more focused, more driven. You start attracting opportunities that align with the new mindset you're building. People notice, your energy shifts, and little by little, your outer world begins to match the inner change. Mindset isn't about ignoring problems. It's about choosing how you respond to them. It's about believing that no matter what's in front of you, you've got something inside of you that can handle it. When you start thinking higher, speaking life over yourself, and moving with faith, you give yourself permission to live at a level you never thought possible.